Students. My name is Krishna Wang, and I'll be your course instructor for FIBA Anthropology for this semester. We are going to begin by talking about marriage. So, what is a marriage? So, according to Erikson, it's a relationship between groups and not individuals. By that, he means that it's not just individuals who enter the institution of marriage, but it's more about the groups. It's for example, the husband's family and the wife's family that get together. So it's not just about a man and a woman in a union. According to Western Mark, he says that the relation of one or more man or woman, which is recognized by custom or law. So, for a marriage to be legitimate, it has to be approved by some societal customs or some sort of legal provisions or laws. It involves certain rights and duties for those involved in the union. So it also marriage also would entail that a person be responsible for the marriage, and that means that he's required to perform certain rights, certain duties as a married person. As a husband, for example, traditionally he would have to be providing for the family. As a woman, traditionally she would need to, do the domestic chores, engage in domestic housework. These are the traditional gender roles that were uh, very much assigned to what a marriage was. Then he says, Westermark says that societal legitimacy to sex relations between husband and wife. So by that he means that sexual relationships need to be approved by the society. They can't just be conducted willy-nilly in the society, and that's why to legitimize sexual relations between a man and a woman or between two partners, it requires an institution. So, what was this institution? It was marriage. Then we are going to see what Mazumdar and Madan have talked to us about marriage. They say that marriage basically ensures biological satisfaction. By biological satisfaction, they mean it satisfies our sexual needs and traditionally hunger as well. There are certain biological needs that a person has, and two of them are having sexual relations and fulfilling your hunger. So by that he means that by that Majumdar and Madan mean that biological satisfaction of sexual relationships are satisfied through marriage. As well, when you're married to someone, you ensure that your primary needs are fulfilled, such as hunger. Then they say that the second part is psychological satisfaction of having children. So basically, marriage as an institution ensures a progeny, it ensures a family. It's not essential in modern times, but in traditional times, the marital relation would only be legitimized if the union had children, if the husband and wife had children. So that kind of psychological need is also satisfied, and it also gives legitimacy to marriage. Thirdly, marriage would ensure survival of group and culture. So it involves socialization of children in a marriage. Once you're married, you start a family, your children, they get socialized, you teach them about their culture, you teach them about our societal norms, values. By that, we ensure that the culture remains and is transferred and disseminated through generations. So it ensures survival of group and culture. Then we're going to see characteristics of marriage. So as we saw, it fulfills biological need, the biological need for sex and hunger. It's primary needs of a human. So it's one of the first characteristics of marriage. Secondly, it ensures survival of society by the means of procreation, by means of having children. Procreation means your progeny, your next generation of children. So it ensures that there's a survival of group. Then traditionally also it was assumed that larger the family, higher the prestige of the family, because that family could support so many members. So essentially people were more willing to have more children back then. So it satisfied that need. Marriage would ensure that there's some structure to a family life, and that's how it began. But there are changes in the outlook now. Thirdly, we're going to see about legitimacy of marriage. It depends on the rules of societal rules of marriage. Legitimacy of marriage is granted by the society. If a society does not approve of certain relations as marriage, it is not considered as marriage. Major examples of this were back in the 1920s or 30s, same-sex relations were not allowed. Same-sex partners were not allowed to enter into marital relationships. It is still frowned upon in some societies. Legally, it has been granted recognition across some developed countries, and that's how it has been institutionalized as marriage between same-sex people. But if a society does not approve of it, you cannot say that two people living together as partners are married. So, societal approval and consent is very, very crucial to the institution of marriage. Marriages which don't adhere to these rules are not legitimized. In India, for example, we have khap panchayats and honor killings, which are essentially honor killings would entail that the community, the khap panchayats, would not approve of certain intercaste marriages, and that's why the marriages are nulled and nullified. So, legitimacy of marriage is derived from societal norms and cultures as well as legal recognition. Fourth is the terms of dissolution of marriage. By that we mean that the way a marriage can be ended, or in popular terms we call it divorce. So, in terms of marriage, one can actually break away from the marriage, but those terms and conditions are also dictated by the society. How are they dictated? It begins with what marriage is about, and it's particular to every religion. For example, in Hinduism, uh, marriage is a sacrament of your faith. You are adhere to your religion, and that's why you have to be married as part of it once you reach a certain age. But when it comes to Islamic marriages, it is an contractual marriage. You can easily, it's easier to break off a marriage in an Islamic relationship, Islamic marriage, only because it's a contractual. There's provisions. The faith provides for ending, for terms of ending your marriage. So in Hinduism, it's not allowed, or it's not even looked upon as mentioned in the holy scriptures. But in modern times, it has been granted that recognition under legal constitution. Fifth, it provides the socialization of children. It is considered crucial in maintaining the fabric of society. Marriage as an institution would ensure that the children would be socialized into society. They will be taught how to behave in a society, how to address other people, for example, how to respect your elders, what to do at certain events, what to say in schools, how to behave in a society. These things are taught to children, and where do they come from when family is maintained? So, the marriage starts a family, and family ensures socialization of kids, and it is crucial to ensuring that there's a legacy of culture in the family. Sixth, it is sanctioned by society. Uh, Essentially, it means that marriage has to be legitimized by the society. It depends on prevailing ideology of the society, which includes choice of spouse, methods of marriage. So, for example, if a society approves of same-sex marriage, then that marriage is legitimized by the society. It's an ideology, it's a progressive liberal ideology. But if, for example, any society that does not approve of same-sex marriage or has no legal provision for it, then two people living together of same sex would not be considered as marriage. So the choice of spouse is essential. Secondly, you have to see methods of marriage. If, say, a person runs away with another person to get married off, is that marriage legitimized by the community? It mostly isn't unless under certain circumstances. So basically, a marriage has to be legitimized by the group, by the community, by the society. Then we're going to see about functions of marriage. Functions of marriage essentially are overlapping with their characteristics, and that's how we're going to see about it. Functions of marriage include satisfaction of sexual needs, childbearing and socialization, continuation of tradition and legacy. Fourthly, property rights. According to a marriage, in a marital institution, property rights are granted specifically. It provides for property to be divided amongst the family, and it ensures a certain structure to it. That's why marriage can also ensure property rights. Fifth, it's strengthening community bonds through kinship. That means if you get married, it's not just between two people, it's between more people, it's between groups of people. So group cohesion increases, societal cohesion increases, and there's a community you can count on after marriage. Societal control through distribution of rights, roles, and duties. So, if entering a marital institution, entering a marriage would ensure that there's social control. By that, we mean that everyone is assigned a role and everyone has to perform that role. So, as a young married couple or as an elder married couple, the roles and duties are different. Elder married couples would be in an Indian traditional society would be asked to rest and let the young ones do the work. So it gives a structure to family life. Once family life gets the structure, society gets a structure. So that ensures a certain amount of social control. Then it is the foundational element of family and household. By entering a marriage, one starts a family. So it's family is considered a basic unit of society, and marriage is the first foundational step towards it. Eighth, appropriation and dissemination of culture. It ensures culture is accepted, appropriated, and then it is spread on to your next generation, to your kins, your folks, and that's how culture spreads. It doesn't spread independently, it spreads when people engage, when there's a societal cohesion about it. Ninth, it gives you social and psychological security. It once you enter a marital institution, you get a social security as a married person. You are looked upon at certainly differently, and psychological security of getting your primary needs fulfilled. That gives you psychological security of mind. So essentially, marriage as an institution ensures that your primary, your secondary, tertiary needs in life are fulfilled. It gives you societal security, it gives you culture, it gives you family. All these requirements are considered very primary and secondary to humans. Thank you. This was the first part of our lecture of this video, and we'll be continuing with marriage in the next video.